Well, round 22 on the grid, and Mother Nature struck a cruel blow. It looked like a cruel blow for Chris Walker in the first race, but at the end of the day, Chris, didn't turn out too badly.
No, it could have been a lot worse, but I'm a bit nervous now. Obviously, desperately to get a good result in the second race. Obviously, a bit down the guys of they've had a race out there to make a few adjustments for the wet, and obviously I wasn't allowed back out in the restart. So a bit of work to do in this one, but I'll get my head down and see what I can come up with.
Do you think you maybe pushed a bit too hard too soon in the first race, or what?
So it looked like it, didn't it? I mean, you never really know how fast everybody's going to be going, and I didn't feel like I'd done anything wrong, but I was unfortunate to fall off, and then even more unfortunate that when I did get back on it with no damage, it broke an oil line and then the engine blew up. So what can you do? But, you know, hopefully luck will shine on us this time.
Well, really disappointing, but the championship's still very much alive.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still gunning for it.
Good luck.
Thank you.
And he will be gunning for it too. Just 10 points separates number 4 from bike number 2. Number 4 in the lead as they come under starters' orders for round 22. And this race has been reduced to just 20 laps, and Walker gets the whole shot. And who's surprised by that? Certainly not me. Hodgson tucks in behind Walker. Plater goes all the way around the outside, and Steve Plater on the Kawasaki takes the lead.
Well, second lead for Steve Plater, albeit momentarily, because Chris Walker, number 2, has put the Suzuki back in front again. Number 31, Michael Rutter, winner of round 21, has gone with him. Plater's well placed in third. Neil Hodgson sitting in a 13-point place at the moment in 4th place. So you know what the gap was coming into this race. Just 10-point deficit this man, number 2, had on that man, number 4. Hodgson up to 3rd. He's tucked the Ducati inside Steve Plater's Kawasaki. He's got to hang on to Chris Walker, and a rerun of the start, Roger.
This is on board with Walker. Looking backwards, you can see Mackenzie on bike 7, and that's how Chris Walker does it. Straight through into the lead. There's Reynolds on bike 3. You can see Shane Burns 16, Rutter number 31, as they're all coming into view in the wake of Chris Walker. And Walker goes past Plater on bike 22. Rutter comes up the inside of Hodgson. It was so hectic into Druids.
Well, I'm asking myself, where is number 5, James Hayden, this time? Because he's not in the first 4, he's not in the first 6. We're now looking at the rear end of Neil Hodgson. This is John Reynolds on board with Reynolds. There he is, the blue helmet, number 3. Reynolds saw his championship challenge come just a little touch closer because he clawed some points back on the... Oh, that's Hodgson! That is Neil Hodgson! Oh no! Neil Hodgson has gone down. He's done exactly what Chris Walker did in round 21, and he's so desperately trying to get that bike picked up. That was at the bottom of Graham Hill. There's a lot of muck in the fairing there, Roger.
Well, this is the view that John Reynolds got of that. You can see they're coming down into Graham Hill. Neil turns the bike into the corner and the front end breaks away. Keep watching for the bike. Front end's just tucking now. Neil didn't have his knee near enough to the tarmac to hold that up, and it would have been a brave order to save that anyway, but in true determined style he's trying to get the bike going, and those big Ducatis are very, very difficult to bump start, let me tell you. In the pits they have a special thing to start them that spins the rear wheel, so I don't see him getting the bike going, Barry.
Well, the twists and turns of this championship roll on. Chris Walker then leading for Neil Hodgson. Look at the muck and the mud and the grass and all sorts of stuff up on the inside of that Ducati, but it won't fire up. Number 4, Neil Hodgson, championship leader, is out of round 22. So that means he only has 2 races in which to salvage his championship challenge, assuming, of course, that number 2, Chris Walker, stays on, and that's by no means guaranteed that any of them are going to stay on. It's very tricky round here. They will have looked long and hard at the tyre choice. It's a short, sharp dash. A disconsolate Neil Hodgson in the garage. He must be absolutely heartbroken. Oh dear. Well, what a professional. That's his team boss, Colin Wright. And I've got a lump in my throat because Neil Hodgson said to the man, I am sorry. Of course he didn't mean to throw it away. That's racing, it happens, but it ain't over yet. Chris Walker, followed by Michael Rutter, number 31. John Reynolds in 3rd place. So John Reynolds is fighting back in the twilight of the championship, and he wants to improve on that number 3 place if at all possible. Chris Walker is skating all over the tarmac, Roger. Sensational stuff.
Whoa, sensational stuff indeed, because that's David Jeffries down, and that looks like it's Druid's corner, but you can see the heavily cut tyres. He's on full wet tyres, so no problem there with tyre choice, but David Jeffries looking perfectly all right. But this man, Chris Walker, doesn't he know how to do it? There's a yellow flag out, so my apologies, that crash was at Paddock Hill bend. It wasn't at Druids. I saw the yellow flag there, so it was at this corner we've just gone round. But I was just saying about Chris Walker, what a terrier he is. We described him as a terrier at the beginning of the programme. He is tough for his size. You can't shake him off, and he doesn't ever give up.
Well, number 31 in third place, Michael Rutter, still in a rostrum position, but it's up to second, and he can smell a win here for number 3, John Reynolds. 20 points are his for the taking at the moment, and he will know that Neil Hodgson has gone out. This is a passing move, looking forward from John Reynolds. Michael Rutter has gone out of picture on your left into Paddock Hill bend. This is much, much steeper than it actually looks on the television camera. It's unbelievably steep going into Paddock Hill bend. The bike goes right, very easy to lose the front, or indeed high-side it when you get the power on coming out of there. And the tail ender, number 30, Lee Humphries, a bit of a twitch from him. Rutter took the wide line. John Reynolds dived up the inside. Now Rutter's switched his tack and gone for the inside. So number 31, Michael Rutter, is safely past Lee Humphries. He's in third place, but still out in the lead is Chris Walker, number 2. The blue flag on the right of your picture is saying to the tail enders, move over. The fast men are coming through. We do not want to see this race decided on getting tangled up with the back markers, but it's inevitable that that should happen. And in conditions like this, when everyone is focused, so intent on staying on their own piece of tarmac, they don't necessarily know that the fast men are coming.
They certainly don't. But the track is now starting to dry, and the track goes through a period where it goes really greasy before it starts to go dry, and in some ways the track's at its most dangerous now as it's drying. They've got wet tyres, and you see Chris Walker swipe the water off his visor there as he takes not a tear off, but tries to wipe it with the back of his glove. Now Ben Atkins there, the team owner of the John Reynolds team, the Rev A team, looking to see where his rider is, and the answer to that is that he's in second place. This is the rear-facing camera of Chris Walker, and you can see the lead that he's now got.
Tremendously dark, but it's not raining any longer. The track, that dry line, you can see it just beginning to fall now right of centre of the circuit. Chris Walker, number 2, threading his way through the privateers, through the tail enders. We are now well over 3/4 race distance. He's just got to hang on to the end. Reynolds still in second. No sign, of course, of Neil Hodgson on that caption, because we saw him crash out. He's in the pit garage, and he too now will be taking his turn, watching the television monitor. He'll be doing the maths in his head, and he will know, assuming Chris Walker takes it all the way. That's Gobert! Anthony Gobert, winner of the second half of race 1, has dumped the Yamaha on the grass here. We didn't actually see him lose it. Maybe we'll get a shot of that, but Gobert is out, walking away. The grass is very slippery, of course. Once they go on that, they're in all sorts of trouble.
Well, yeah, disappointing not to see him try to pick the bike up, really, but then he maybe thought that was it, and he could see probably something was hanging off it. But it's lap 17 of 20, and Chris Walker in the lead, and who would bet that he won't win this race now? And if he does, then he's going to be 21 points ahead of Neil Hodgson in the lead in the championship.
Well, that's a massive total for Neil Hodgson to claw back, but as we've seen, points can vanish just as in the twinkling of an eye. You can go from the race leader to being on your ear in the grass. And we have 2 more races to come, of course, from Donington Park. This championship just gets better and better and better, and it will go down to a thrilling conclusion at Donington Park when this man, Chris Walker, assuming he comes home in the lead of this one, will be the new championship leader, will be chased all the way by Neil Hodgson, looking to lift his first British Superbike title, as indeed is Chris Walker.
Well, there you have it. The caption at the bottom tells the story. Walker is 4.5 seconds in front, so I can't see anybody clawing back that lead that Walker has. And Rutter's got back ahead of Reynolds, and that's not going to do Reynolds' title hopes any good either. And that's the scenes in the GSE Racing pit with Darrell Healy, team owner, and Colin Wright looking at the monitor and wondering really where it's all gone wrong after such a fabulous qualifying performance from Neil Hodgson.
Yeah, he rode brilliantly throughout qualifying, and he was so confident coming in to this race meeting here. And now there's an air of resignation in the Ducati pit, but it's not over yet, as we've said so many times over the weeks and months of this thrilling season that we've had in the year 2000. It's going to be very interesting to see if we can actually get a better year next year. That remains to be seen. But in third place, is he going to finish third in the year 2000 championship? Number 3, John Reynolds. Michael Rutter, the Rain Man, going really well, but this is Reynolds.
Well, Reynolds there nearly being run off the track by a slower rider again costing him time. And poor old John sometimes seems to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and that's allowed Michael Rutter, the guy in the red bike there, to get ahead of him.
The penultimate lap then for Chris Walker. Hunting his way round here. He knows he's got a good cushion. Well over 5 seconds now lead he has. So all he's got to do is bring it home. And you can see his nose taped over inside the helmet there. That's to stop the condensation from the rider's breath misting up the visor. So it's very, very difficult. You get the contrast of temperatures and the windows steam up under their visor just as they do in your car. On the last lap, you can see it again there, the white tape over the bridge of the nose, deflecting all of his breath downwards and out of the bottom of the helmet and not up inside the perspex. Dean Ellison, the number 19 SP1, the red bike there. Privateer Dean Ellison rides very well in super stock. He's having his own little battle. Chris Walker on his final lap won't be taking any chances now. This will give him a 21-point championship lead. A look over the shoulder from Chris Walker. It certainly turned his day round. He must have felt so dejected halfway through the afternoon. The crowd have stayed here. The conditions have been dreadful. The summer's really gone, but it's still Chris Walker on his way. The air horns are going. Exiting clearways now, coming down towards the line. Paul Denning and the Suzuki team are absolutely thrilled. It came right at the end of the day for Chris Walker. There's the win then. 20-lap race, as Roger Burnett said at the start, a shortened race distance and confirmation of Walker's win. Rutter, second place, so another rostrum for Michael Rutter. Reynolds, McKenzie, Shane Byrne and Steve Plater stayed on for 6th. Hayden in 7th. There you have it, 21 points the advantage Walker leads Hodgson by. John Reynolds has closed up marginally there, so still all to play for. Any one of those top 3 can win it. James Hayden has dropped away, he's on 303. There are 3 Hondas in the second half of the table, and Sean Emmett in 10th is the fastest.
Chris, that was fantastic. 21 points in the lead in the championship now.
Can't believe it. I needed a good result. I've been on the rostrum every time this year, and I was so nervous going into that race. It's horrible when you have a real bum first race, because you're desperate to keep on in the second race, and I knew the boys would be fast because they'd had a race in the wet, so there's a case of just get my head down, kept looking at my lap times, and I've been watching the first race and knew what sort of times they were doing, so I knew I was in the game. But no, mega result, brilliant.
Just 50 points remaining now at Donington Park. You must be feeling that you've got one hand on the trophy now.
No way, you never know, do you, what's around the corner. Look at me today, the first race, I didn't even get to compete in it when it was restarted, so you never know what's around the corner. I shan't be celebrating just yet.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well, we're finishing up today here at Brands Hatch just as we started in glorious sunshine. But a huge crowd got soaked to the skin watching today's 2 Superbike races. The conditions dealt cruel blows, first to Chris Walker, then to Neil Hodgson, but it was Walker who emerged victorious, having extended his championship lead. He could be forgiven for thinking he's got one hand on the trophy already. But any one of 3 riders can still win it. Reynolds, Hodgson and Walker. It all goes down to the wire at Donington Park for the final 2 races, so don't miss that whatever you do. But from Brands Hatch, thanks for watching and bye-bye.